Okay, let's move on to a little more about ratios. So we're going to do a little review, and then we are going to move on to simplifying ratios. So first of all, a ratio is a comparison. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers or quantities. A ratio can be written as a fraction with a colon or with the word 2. So we can have 3:1 or 3:1 or 3:1. Either one of those. Now let's compare the differences and similarities between a ratio and a fraction. So first of all, a ratio can compare different types of units. So a ratio can compare different types of units. For example, like we did cats and dogs with our number lines. We compared the number of dogs to the number of cats. Let's see. Another thing, ratios can look different. They can be written differently. Let's see. They can be written differently. And that's how we talked about with the colon as a fraction or with the word 2. And with a ratio, you can compare a part to a part. But when you are comparing in fractions, you can only compare part to whole. Now you can compare part to whole for both. But with a fraction, that's the only way you can do it. You are also, with fractions, comparing the same type of unit. Same types of units. And then another thing that they have in common is they can both be written in fraction form. Okay, so let's move on. Let's write a ratio for each of these phrases. 5 cupcakes for every 2 children. I'm going to make that 5 cupcakes to 2 children. So you see how I'm comparing different units. I'm comparing cupcakes to children. If this was a fraction, I could not do that. I have to compare the same units. 9 dogs for every 10 cats. So 9 to 10. And then 3 marbles to every 4 green marbles. So 3 to 4. Very simple writing a ratio. Now simplifying ratios. Now these look like fractions. They are in fraction form. And we're going to simplify these fractions just like we did before. So we're reviewing how to simplify fractions. Remember, it is the same way to simplify ratios. These could be ratios written in fraction form. So I look at 10 and 12 and I think, what factor is common between 10 and 12? And I know 2. So I divide both by 2 because whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And 5 and 6 do not have a common factor. So that is my simplified fraction or simplified ratio. I'm going to move down here to 3 and 15. 3 and 15 have a common factor of 3. Divide by 3. And then 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So my new ratio or fraction is 1 to 5. Next, we have 8 over 2 and 12 over 4. 8 and 2 have a common factor of 2. I divide the top and the bottom by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And this simplified, if this was a fraction, we could simplify it to 4. If this is a ratio, we simplify it as 4 to 1. And finally, 12 to 40. It has a common factor of 4. We divide by 4, divide by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 40 divided by 4 is 10. And here is our simplified fraction. When you move on, the next sheet that you're going to be looking at, this is for a grade. So you will be completing number 5. You're going to write it in as a ratio, as a fraction, or in words. So I'm going to do one with you to show you how I want this done. It says spotted to plain candy. So my spotted candy, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 spotted to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 8. So here it is as a ratio. As a fraction, I'm going to write it 4 to 8. And as words, I'm going to write it as 4 to 8. You can write it out like that as long as the word 2 is in word form. That's how you're going to do this page. So that page is for a grade. And this page is for a grade. So let's look here. Write a ratio for each statement. 9 slices of pizza for 7 kids. This is like we did earlier. 9 slices, 7 kids. Just like that. If we move down, write 2 equivalent ratios for each statement. So if I did 400 miles for every 6 hours, one way that I could make a new equivalent ratio would be to divide by 2. So 400 divided by 2 is 200. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So there's one of our new ratios. Or I could also multiply by 2. 400 times 2 is 800. 6 times 2 is 12. It is just like coming up with equivalent fractions. You can even write them in fraction form if you choose to. But remember to, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So you need to come up with 2 equivalent ratios. These are both going to be for a grade. So when you turn these in, or I'll just sign them, and then when you turn in your whole packet, I will grade them then.